yeah, so basically the story idea kind of came from my love of Iceland, like the real place, and also inspired by my studies in saga and folklore. So it's kind of just the mixing of the two ones. The saga of the Volsungs, Volsunga saga, is one of the main inspirations for this story, but also kind of the natural bound magic of Iceland. In a lot of other deistic faith systems, magic is directly related to the gods. And while in Icelandic folklore, that is certainly one of the elements, one of the others is just simply that the land is magical. So, yeah, and I think you can find some parallels to Native American, for example, folklore there. But if you think about folklore from other parts of the world, it's not quite like that. If you think, for example, about Greek folklore, Greek mythology, it's all about the gods. This is distinctly not that system, and it wasn't ever really written about before, and I wanted to explore it in a fictional setting. So,
wow. So is your book published, NORNAKONA?
Not yet. So right now it's on submission with publishers.
Okay.
So
basically you're looking for a publisher?
Yeah. So most publishing houses have a rule that you can't submit to them without an agent, which is why it's so important to get an agent, especially like the top 5 don't. So I am with my agent taking my book to publishers. We're in the middle of our first round, going well so far, fingers crossed. And it's every author's dream, right, to have their book turned into a movie. I'm no exception. I would love that. When I first met my agent, she asked me, you know, what are your goals? That's one of the things you discuss on the call. And I was like, for my books to be made into movies like everybody else.
I asked you that then because I could just see, I visualize it, and people would be so interested in Iceland because it's right now it's kind of mysterious to us. Mm-hmm. You got introduced to me through watching Vikings.
Yeah, that's one of the touch point cultural references right now. So yeah, I would love that. Like everybody else, the way it works essentially is once you get a book deal, you can also ask for film rights, and then if a film studio likes it, so they'll option your book, and they'll see if they can shoot like a couple of scenes, whether or not the concept holds. So I'm not remotely there yet, but maybe one day.
Wow. So exciting.
Thank you.
You're really good at your writing. I would stick to it too. I mean, it just flows. I mean, how much editing do you really need?
Oh, lots.
It just flows.
Yeah, what you're reading is probably, so it includes some of the work from my agent. It includes maybe 5 or 6 drafts. So I maybe go through at the end of it between 8 and 10 rounds of editing. And that's really like probably low. I think it really is just editing. Writing is editing. Writing is sitting down and assessing your work constantly. And the way that I try to do that is I get a lot of readers and I give them my book all at the same time when I'm at the same round. And based on their feedback, I'm constantly revising because basically books are for readers. So if the readers don't understand something, it's my job as a writer to go back and fix it. So yeah. And I get something like between 5 and 10 beta readers each round. So
where do you get your beta readers? Is that from
Twitter?
Okay.
Where I put out a call. I'll probably have to stop at some point and just like stick to a core group of 5 or 6, because it starts to get voluminous.
There's
Like,
something about that because I tell you what, it's so good.
thank you.
Do you watch The Conjurings?
No, I haven't watched it because I'm afraid of it. Yeah, no, I'm a chicken. But one of the things that I really like about writing horror is that you can't rely on jump scares, right? Because it's not visual. So you have to rely on a building of dread throughout. Yeah, right, where you're like holding the book with like 2 sweaty, gripping hands, and you're like, oh no.
What you never see?
I know, like, no. But like, you can't, like in a movie, you can have somebody get snuck up on, but in a book that doesn't work because you can't see it. So it's about the interplay of suspense and dread that really makes a horror novel. And by the way, I don't think horror is really a genre. Horror is a lens through which we see other things. So you can apply the lens of horror to historical fiction, you can apply it to science fiction, you can apply it to fantasy, you can apply it to what I would consider like contemporary fiction, which is NORNAKONA.
You on that because I've never heard it said so well.
But one of the ones I was thinking of while I was writing it was The Shining, and I wanted to imitate that very like Gothic sense, that very like atmospheric thing that was happening in The Shining at the hotel.
Yes, you did. Yes, the maze. Yes, yes, you did.
I really wanted to write this book as, I don't know, just this kind of engulfing, sticky web. And I think that's really what Gothic horror is. It's like this subversive, overwhelming kind of whole environment book, as opposed to other horror, which is like there's a scary element in a book. As a, you know, that's the contrast to like environment and atmosphere. You can have both things, but I prefer to write the environment to be one of the characters as well. And NORNAKONA was really the first time I tried to do that. So I'm glad it worked. Needing horror, but I really think that horror teaches empathy.
Yes.
And in order to be a good horror writer, I think one of the things that you really need is a keen sense of empathy, because you have to see what scares others and what scares you. So for me, I was always very afraid of losing my purpose. And I think that comes out in NORNAKONA, right? So, but taking that to like the highest extreme is what happened for Kathryn. So she lost her relationship with her mother, her relationship with her father. She lost her relationship with her agent, her writing agent. She lost her relationship to Amanda, her girlfriend, her longtime girlfriend. And instead of kind of doubling down, she ran. And I think that's an impulsive decision that a lot of people would make in that situation. If they have nothing left, then they're going to leave. And it got her into some hot water.
Yeah.
So,
She runs away again.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's always running away.
She's always running. And the reality is that she's really afraid of herself, and afraid of the decisions that she's made, but she can't undo them. And so she keeps making it worse. And that's basically an allegory for life, right? Yeah. Like the more you run away from your problems, the worse they get. So I think that this book in general comes from like a deep place of empathy for me, because that's the kind of person I am. I'm afraid to confront things. Although like I like to talk, I'm not super conflict happy. I'm very risk averse and, you know, so conflict averse. So
I think your book works though, because the things that she's says to herself, we all say to ourselves at one point or another. I mean, if you're being honest, and I think that's why books have value, is that you're having a personal relationship with a book that is almost a mirror to yourself most of the time.
Totally.
So, you can't get that in a movie. You can't get it anywhere but in a book.
That's true.
Those feelings that you have.
For me, I was trying to describe the things that I feel are universally scary, and then putting them in an eerie setting like Iceland was just like turning the screw a little. I think this could have easily been set in any other environment, but I think that having the atmosphere of Iceland, having kind of the unknown factor of Iceland, heightened this deep primal anxiety in Kathryn.
Definitely.
So yeah, I really, in so many ways, Sigrún is Kathryn and Kathryn is Sigrún. And I mean, that's like the backbone of the story, is she's attracted to this person who she wants to be her mirror image and finds out that it doesn't really work like that. Yeah, I think one of Kathryn's major flaws is that she's always looking to confirm to herself that everybody is kind of against her. And when she meets Helga, who is like a really nice, caring individual who's putting her up and like is dealing with her vagrancy with her rent, like she feeds her, she clothes her, she takes care of her when she gets hurt. Yeah. But Kathryn can only see the worst in her and can only see her own mother in her, and her mother is a terrible mother. So, actually I really struggled with Helga, and also with Amanda. Dialogue is not my strong suit, so I was working through like a bunch of my problem areas when I was writing this book.
You did great.
Thanks. Lots of editing and a lot of good eyes on my work.
Natural flow to the conversation.
Thank you. Amanda is like a terrible life partner.
I don't know what's going on with Amanda. I just figure she's a doctor.
Yeah, she's a doctor. She's very driven.
Yeah. A-type?
Yeah, very type A, but also like willing to step on people if it gets her what she wants. And Kathryn is very happy to entertain that and very happy to be that submissive partner for her, but realizes eventually that it will never be enough for her. And that realization is a wrecking ball for her. And that's how she feels about her mother too. So if you noticed, a lot of her bad relationships are basically her relationship with her mother. She is realizing that like no matter what she does across the course of the book, it won't be enough because what she's doing is not good. So yeah, Kathryn is, a very flawed human.
The other good thing about Kathryn is that you can kind of tell how old she is because her girlfriend's a doctor now. Mm-hmm. But the thoughts that she has, they could start at 14. They could, it could be any age, the way she feels about her mother or how she relates to her significant other, she's such a strong character. She really is. I mean, and then you start to wonder sometimes if she's imagining things. So that's another thing too, because we're like, especially as writers, right? We're sitting there imagining things ourselves.
You'll have to read it to find out.
Yeah, that's why I fell asleep last night. I gotta get this done. Thank you, Taylor, for speaking to me about your beautiful book, NORNAKONA.
Thank you.
About Icelandic witches.
Full of Icelandic witches and magic.
And I love it. I can't wait for it to come out and you sign the book for me.
Of course.
And also, when you have your other books, come back and talk about those two.
Oh, I would love to do that. Thank you. This has been such a treat. Thank you so much for having me.